Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing my top lane champion presence for Worlds this year. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Today I am being joined by Ollie. He's going to participate in kind of listing where all the champions go. And yeah, let's begin. So let's cover the 0 to 10% presence tier. So the first champion I want to talk about is Tryndamere. He is going to be in this tier list because, well, he got buffed. The adjustments towards his range and only losing a bit of AD and health growth should make people aware of this champion again, and we might see some people just bring it out as like a mid lane or a top lane pick. Not a huge amount. I reckon there are better AD picks which will gain traction throughout the tournament, but Tryndamere might see a couple games in play-ins or throughout the main stage if they need it in a game 5 scenario, so he's there. What are your thoughts?
I just feel like he's not going to be a champ that's going to see a lot of attention. I just feel like somebody's going to find a spot they can use him in and give it a go.
Cool.
I don't think they'll get much results.
Yep. Alright. Moving on, we've got Gragas. Obviously, the nerfed version of Gragas. His healing on his passive has gone down from 8 seconds cooldown to 12 seconds, I believe. That was the nerf which kind of took him out of competitive. However, some people may see tank Gragas or AP Gragas as an option. So he is also going to be here. You got any thoughts on that one? Yep.
369 has played quite a lot of tank Gragas in his time when it very much was not very good. So I feel like he does quite like the pick, so I feel like he might just play it as comfort into certain matchups. So he might see a little bit of presence.
Nope. Aurelia is going to be here. Received the 15-second ult cooldown buff, which didn't do a huge amount, but then someone always ego picks Aurelia, so she's also going to be here.
Especially it's a very staple of the Asian teams. They're just picks they pick because it's high skill and they're good at it. They just out-mechanic their opponent. Aurelia is one of them, so I think they'll pick it against weaker opponents.
Yep. Cassiopeia is also going to be here. Broken Blade, known for playing this champion in certain occasions. I don't think it's going to see a huge amount of presence, but once again, might see some bans from mid, alongside maybe 1 or 2 picks in the top lane. Should be around the 0 to 10% presence mark.
I mean, yeah, there are a few people at Worlds who have played this before in the past.
Yone is also going to be here. The odds top laner will probably play this champion. Once again, might see some bans toward mid lane as well. Should bump its presence up a bit, but won't break it out of the 10% margin. So Yone is also going to be down here. Fiora is going to be the next champion. Fiora obviously sees play usually in these events. Not a huge amount, but once again, it tends to be an Eastern favorite. Even Fudge sometimes plays this champion. So hopefully we'll see a bit of Fiora. Might break out the 10% mark. That would be nice, but I don't see her drawing a huge amount of bans. If anything, it will be if people are blinding tanks, then Fiora will draw bans. But Gwen is also there, so Gwen will probably also see bans alongside Fiora. But yeah, that's the overall on that one. Darius is a Adam BB champion. He also sees play with 369, I believe. Is that right? Or is it Bin?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, 369, yeah. Camille, also another 369 champion. Tends to be quite Eastern favored as well. I don't see this champion seeing a huge amount of play other than maybe in Galio comps, Twisted Fate comps, when you can really utilize the engage this champion has and its pick potential.
I mean, yeah, and from previous experience of different tournaments, this champ is very much picked in high pressure situations where one little positioning mistake can get punished extremely hard by it. So it's very good in high pressure situations, so they might pick it in a game 5 or...
Yep, cool. Olaf is also going to be here. He is really good in the hands of some of the players who can, like your Adams, stuff like this. I know BB has played this champion a couple of times. Obviously, we have that clip with the jungler who was farming blue buff. I believe it was a Vi and a Cassante, and BB basically took both of them out of the game. This champion is really strong in certain situations. Obviously has the downside of not being as reliable and can, when he falls behind, can struggle as he's very much needing resources to kind of power through, do damage, be unkillable. So that's that one. Malphite. This was one of the more argued ones. He can kind of rise up in popularity if there are lots of AD champs within the meta. But with the likes of Kennen and Rumble and Jax doing a decent amount of AP damage, obviously still is an answer to Jax, he will probably fall down a bit. Gwen also rising up, and other tanks just being relatively strong against Malphite can hurt this champion's overall presence. I think we will see some Malphite, just not a huge amount. Obviously still really strong into Jace alongside the Jax, so he's here. Well, what are your thoughts on this one? Because I was going to look at total ones.
In my opinion, I think Malphite is one of the better tanks that you would pick just at the end of a comp. I'll speak more about the other tanks that I think later on, but I think he has the chance to get into the 10 to 30% bracket.
Cool. All right. Gangplank is going to be the first champion in the 10 to 30% bracket. I believe this champion is perceived as being quite strong at the moment, even though the ult buffs weren't particularly huge and they were mostly towards the upgrades, which you get later on into the game. People realize GP is quite a good champion in just being able to do a lot of DPS. He's got a relatively safe laning phase, and his global pressure just makes him quite valuable. Overall, I think some teams will see this, pick him up, and definitely slot him into their compositions. I don't think his presence is going to be particularly high, because I think some teams will just avoid this pick altogether, but I believe he will be around this area.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll draw more bans than he gets picks, just from people drafting themselves in situations where GP could do quite well.
Aatrox, well, okay, so Aatrox is one which I think can be kind of move around a bit. There are lots of decent AD picks at the moment, with like your Jax, your Renekton, Cassante does a decent amount of AD, Yone, Fiora, Gangplank, all these are strong options. Gnar also doing primarily AD. Aatrox is now pushed more back towards his Stridebreaker and Gore Drinker builds, which tend to benefit him in competitive, where he is more of a frontline than someone who can just assassinate and kind of sustain through doing that. Overall, I don't think teams will instantly pick this champion up, but some will definitely have it as something within their arsenal, so I think he'll be around the 10 to 30% mark.
Yeah, I just think he could be a little higher, but he's being held back a little by what else is good right now.
So,
got a lot of his counters being quite good.
Yep. Ornn, one of the best tanks at the moment, definitely. Tends to be really powerful in the hands of Bin. I feel like I'm getting these two mixed around. Bin's the carry player, right?
Bin is
But
the carry player.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, 369. Obviously, the Ornn is going to probably play a decent amount of Ornn Scion. Both these champions are grouped together. They are really strong tanks at the moment. Cassante is a bit more of an engage-heavy tank, and obviously loses a bunch of his tank stats when he goes into his all-out form. Ornn Scion should be the primary tanks. Poppy will see, I will talk about in a bit, but a lot of that will probably come from jungle alongside top lane. She is decent into, obviously, like your dashes. Things like Renekton and Jax can be punished by that. But yeah, Ornn Scion, decent in the hands of 369. Lots of top laners who struggle into some of the better top laners in the tournament will probably end up defaulting to these champions to allow and enable their teammates to have a better chance of carrying.
I mean, yeah, I do agree. Ornn provides a lot of value for his team, even if he's going 0-10 every single game, just because of his ornaments every single game, giving an insane amount of free stats to his team. The only Scion I'm a bit dubious on, because I do personally think that Malphite is a better champion than Scion, but Scion has proven in the past to want to stick around, and players do enjoy playing him over these other options.
Gnar is also going to be here. So this was one of the more argued about ones. I think Gnar will actually see a decent amount of presence purely because of the Q and the W buffs towards Mega. They were quite generous with how much they buffed him. Overall, he will still struggle into some of the picks. He will definitely be something people want default back on to if they want like a carry option who also has the durability of like a tank in certain situations. With Sterex being as good as it is at the moment, and Randuin's also being buffed quite heavily, being one of Gnar's core primary items, I wouldn't be surprised if this champion does break the 30-50 mark, but we haven't seen a huge amount of him. It was the buffs were a bit ago, so they won't be as fresh in the minds as some of the other buffs, but I do definitely think he'll be here. There is a chance he rises up. Yeah, I think that's kind of
Yeah, I just also feel like Gnar is a very strange case because he has the potential to win an entire game for you, but he also has the potential to never actually be able to do anything. So I feel like he's quite a risky pick, and I feel like there's just safer options around him right now, so he won't see as much play.
Gwen is going to be the first champion in the 30 to 50 mark. I believe Gwen is a strong AP option at the moment. A lot of buffs have come towards Gwen's direction. Health growth, just overall damage has gone up, I believe. I think her W also received a bit of a buff, so it gave her a bit more durability. Overall, I do think a lot of this will come down to Jungle Gwen and how strong it actually is, whether teams are willing to pick it up, play around this very AP-heavy jungler. If that is the case, then Gwen will receive a lot of bans, and that will definitely up her top lane presence, especially if she does see picks in the top lane into some of the tanks like your Orns, your Science, matchups where she really does dominate in. Then yeah, I do believe we'll see a decent amount of Gwen.
Yeah, I agree.
Jace is here purely on the basis that I believe mid lane Jace is going to be one of the highest priority things in the tournament. Randomins will hurt Tristana alongside the nerfs she received. Jace isn't affected as much by those changes. Teams do still pick this champion up a lot. Dustblade still in a relatively good spot at the moment. And overall, should just make Jace a very high presence champion. The reason why he's in the 30 to 50 mark in top lane when he will probably have a 70% presence in the overall tournament is because he doesn't see anywhere near as much playing the top lane, but he will receive a lot of bans, and if he sees playing the top lane, then they kind of, then it will add the bans on top of this. So overall, I think he's going to be around this margin, even if he sees only like 5 to 10 games in the top lane.
Yeah, I agree, because he's proven over the last few patches that he's been a very valuable asset for the teams all across the world. So I don't see why that would change it now.
Poppy, also another case of being a really valuable flex pick. Both jungle and top Poppy are really good at the moment. I know a lot of junglers like Peanut really enjoy playing this champion as well. Poppy should see a decent amount of play as an anti-mobility champion. Lee Sin being buffed also buffs Poppy up, definitely. Really strong strong counter pick right there. Overall, just a good tank option. Works well into a lot of top laners. A lot of bans should probably come her direction if teams are picking the Lee Sin. So overall, I think she'll sit around the 30 to 50% mark.
Yeah, a lot of the champs that are good right now, your Renekton, your Jaxes, even Gwen, Cassante, these things, they all have these dashes in their kit, which Poppy can really punish them for even trying to use and get involved in the fight. And worst case scenario, she can knock champs, like a Kennen, for example, away from the fight, so their ult is not impactful, which is very useful.
Cassante is going to be in the 30 to 50% presence mark. He should be on the higher end for sure. He will probably be the primary carry tank option in the tournament. He received some nerfs, but they don't tend to hit him too much, so he just drops a small amount of presence. Obviously, there are good AD options, there are good tank options, there are good AP options, but Cassante should be very in the middle of the pack. He doesn't tend to hold a high presence, but he is definitely there. Teams do like picking this champion if they do want frontline and a level of carry potential.
Yeah, what is there to say about Cassante that hasn't been said in the past? This champ has proven to be very popular and very strong, so I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be being picked up quite often.
So, Renekton, going to be the first champion in the 50-70% mark. Spoiler alert, there are no 70% presence higher top laners. I believe we have enough of a diverse meta, but none of them will break this threshold, as we do tend to see picks come out which can kind of alter the the blind ability and the bans of a lot of these champions. Renekton lost 4 magic resist, makes him a lot weaker into some of these AP matchups. Like Jax does a decent amount of AP, Gwen, Kennen, Rumble, all these AP options will be a lot stronger into him now. Overall, still going to be a really strong champion in the game. Doesn't scale anywhere near as bad as he used to. Has decent durability, has good early laning phase. Just overall, really good all-round champion. Fits into a lot of comps. Good point and click CC. So yeah, that's kind of Renekton for you.
Yeah, this champ is a personal favourite of mine, and with the way he's currently developed into the champ that he is, he's very sticky in team fights. If the enemy team can't deal with him very quickly, he'll buy a lot of space and time. And he's got a very safe lane if he's not into something too dangerous, such as these AP threats. So I can see him being picked up quite often.
Kennen is going to be alongside Renekton. Kennen received buffs towards his ult and his E. They weren't particularly big. They didn't actually adjust his win rate that much, but pros will see this on paper as being quite a large change, and hopefully, well, in their eyes, they will start picking it. Kennen tends to have decent presence at these competitive tournaments. He is a ranged lane bully. He can put people out of the game quite comfortably. Really strong teamfight potential, and opens up the ability to run a AD jungler. So yeah, really powerful champion in the right hands. Yeah, good pick potential. He's kind of there.
And yeah, Kennen's one of those champs where it's a little similar to Gnar, but he's just a lot better right now, where he can just win you a game on the spot by making one good play. But Kennen's just a lot more, in my opinion, he's just a better laner and just a better champion overall than Gnar is. So,
yeah. Rumble is kind of I don't want to say dark horse, because people have known for a while that Rumble's pretty strong. He is definitely going in as probably the highest presence champion, which hasn't been nerfed into the tournament. He saw a lot of play on 13-15 and 13-17, as these are the patches which we have data for. I don't believe any games were played on 13-16 for competitive, but overall, yeah, Rumble going in as the lead AP champion. The buffs to champions around him and nerfs to other champions like Renekton will, I believe, only benefit him. So we should see him around this margin as being like the primary AP pick alongside Kennen. Yeah, but that's kind of the logic behind Rumble here.
yeah, I mean, okay, Rumble is certainly one that I do not know a lot about, but from what I've seen and from how scary I know Rumble can be, especially with what's good right now, he can bully quite a lot of them out of lane. And yeah, I think he will see very high presence, if not just a lot of man.
Jax is going to be the lead for this one. Jax has been nerfed. He received E cooldown nerfs and I believe health growth, but these shouldn't adjust him out of his current spot. He's still really strong with items like Shojin, Divine Sundara, even though Triforce tends to be outperforming of the item. I know a lot of people still prefer that additional healing and durability it can provide in certain situations. Sonya's really powerful item on him. He has really good AP ratios. Then you can obviously itemize into things like Frozen Heart. That tends to be a really nice pickup for Jax, as he can suffer from mana problems. Overall, pick has really good hybrid damage, really good laning phase, decent scaling, decent team fighting, decent side laning. He's just an all-round good champion, and overall teams will definitely look to pick him up as being one of the primary things in the top lane, for sure.
I mean, yeah, Jax is a champion that in the right hands is a monster, and he's terrifying once it gets ahead. So I do feel like a lot, especially of the eastern regions, they might pick Jax a lot just to easily get through other teams, and even against each other, because sometimes Eastern teams can have very volatile matchups into each other, especially LPL teams. So Jax can really reward off of that environment quite well.
Yep. So the last thing I want to talk about is just some of these champions which I haven't included. I believe I put a lot of these here as like picks which teams might look at and go, yeah, we'll play one game of. I don't think we'll see a lot of these, if any, at all. But like obviously picks such as Jarvan have always been perceived as being good into Kennen. If Kennen is really strong, then maybe Jarvan sees a couple of games. The likes of Lee Sin received W Omnivamp, might promote the idea of playing something like top Lee Sin again. Teemo really good into a lot of the meta champs at the moment. Obviously, we're not going to see Teemo. No one's going to be willing to learn and pick up his champion, and he obviously creates conditions within draft. The likes of Set might see play by someone like Adam or BB. Of course, this is if BDS beat Golden Guardians. Other champs, such as Trundle, really good answers into AD matchups, but once again, he has to be buffed to really be perceived as being worthy of being picked. Other picks like Rise, Karma, Saw Player, MSI is like really niche options, but I don't believe these picks will see play either. The other one, Kled, I also only think this champ will ever see play if like BB's willing to pick it up, such as like Pantheon. You got any thoughts of some of these champions?
The only other champion I would mention is maybe Garen, because if Adam might just pick it because he just feels like it, and maybe if someone hasn't read the patch notes, maybe someone might try an AD long top, but I highly doubt it and hope no one does that, because it's pretty bad right now from what I'm aware of.
Yep, cool. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.